Welcome to my channel. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, I will be walking you through a presentation that I have created going into relationships and astrology for Love Month, for Valentine's Day. I want to talk about how to connect to your partner by knowing and understanding their birth chart and their planet placements. And this will help you get a better idea of what you can find in your partner's birth chart and how this can help you in connecting to them on an extremely deep level. I really believe that even in relationship therapy, they should be using the birth chart because it shows how one communicates, how one processes emotions, their love language and what they need on just such a soul level, that understanding your partner's birth chart can truly help in so many ways. So let's get right into it. And also, I just want to mention that for the first portion of this video, we will be talking about what to look for in your partner's birth chart, what it all means, what you can find in your partner's birth chart for those of you who are new to astrology and birth charts. And then for the second portion of this video, I will get into Venus and all 12 signs because Venus is the planet of love and really does show our love language. So I've added in a little bonus going into Venus and all 12 signs, which will help give you a better understanding of your partner's Venus placement and also your own Venus placement as well. So let's get right into it. So how can astrology help you connect with your partner? Well, your partner's birth chart can help you understand them and help you understand them on a deep soul level, but also help you understand how they navigate this reality, how they move through life, how they operate, right? When it has to do with their mindset, communication, when it has to do with their love language, their needs, their wants, their desires, what makes them feel lit up. Their birth chart allows you to connect with them on an emotional, intellectual, physical, and spiritual level because this is all what is in the birth chart. There's so many layers to one's birth chart. There's so much information. Now, by comparing your chart with the chart of your partner, your partner's chart, this is what we would call a synastry reading. It's where we look at the conversation between your planets and your partner's planets. How are they communicating with one another? And this is something that's very important because you want to make sure that, your Venus placements get along well because your love language is extremely important and what you need to feel loved and wanted and desired is you want to make sure that you're on the same level as your partner. Now, let's talk about the sun placement, the ascendant, and the first house, because this really shows you your partner's identity, individuality, their self expression, their life force energy. What makes them feel lit up? What do they need in life to feel completely satisfied? This also shows you how they navigate physical reality. So, their perception on life. The sun placement can show you their leadership and authority qualities, like their leadership skills. Do they like to take lead in the world, or are they more laid back? The sun placement can also show you their physical energy, but also their Mars placement, which we will get into. The sun represents I know I'm not going in order. I've kind of just listed keywords and phrases, but I'm mainly going to talk about these energies. So if I'm kind of jumping all over the place, that's why. But the sun rules our consciousness and spiritual connection. So looking at the sun's placement and also the moon is going to show you, do they have a strong spiritual connection? Are they very intuitive? Or are they a little bit more pessimistic and have a harder time? Maybe they don't believe in that type of stuff. That can all be shown within the birth chart and these placements, especially that sun placement, which rules our consciousness and soul connection. Also, you want to look at the sun placement, the AC, and the first house, but really the sun and the ascendant to look at their ego. And I find this is very important because we all have egos, and this is something that every single one of us struggle with is, taming that ego. And we want to be looking at the sun placement and the ascendant to see, do they have issues, and not necessarily issues, but do they have a big ego? Do they have challenges with maybe allowing their ego to get in the way of decision making, of being compassionate, of being understanding? This is really important, and comparing it with kind of your ego and your needs and your wants is going to be really important. Now, the sun placement in the ascendant can also show their drive. Are they very ambitious? Do they set goals for themselves? This can also be expressed through the Mars placement, but this is an area where you do want to look at the sun placement to see, is this person, not only have physical energy, but are they motivated, and do they set goals and ambitions for themselves, and do they follow through, or do they have a hard time, kind of following through with those goals that they set for themselves? Now let's get into the moon placement, because the moon placement is going to show you what is going on inside. The moon represents our feelings, our emotions. So how do they process emotions, and what do they need on an emotional level? Do they express their feelings well, or do they hold their feelings in? This can be shown through that moon placement. This is also going to show you their nurturing qualities, and which is also going to be expressed through the Venus, but you really do want to look at that moon placement, because we all want to feel nurtured in different ways. And we also we take different things as ways of being nurtured, if that makes sense. And so you really want to look at that moon placement for their nurturing qualities. How do they nurture? How do they want to be nurtured? Also, the moon is going to show their intuition and spiritual connection. This is another thing where, are they very intuitive? Are they very receptive? Can they pick up on energies around them? Because that is definitely going to, affect their mood, affect how they navigate reality. If, their Pisces moon, this energy can sometimes become a little bit difficult, because Pisces can pick up. That's an energy that really does have a hard time with boundaries, that has a hard time with being discerning, and that has a hard time with really being able to determine what is theirs and what is not theirs, because they're picking up on everything around them. It's a very receptive and intuitive energy. They're like sponges. And so that can show you, is your mood going to affect their mood? Is your energy going to affect their energy? The moon placement is also going to show you their habits and their instincts, and also those unconscious patterns and cycles. So can they get stuck? For example, if they have a moon sign, and if they have their moon placement in a fixed sign, this can show you that maybe they struggle with breaking bad habits. This can definitely be a thing with moon and fixed signs, because it's that fixed energy, especially like a moon in Taurus, which is, the moon is exalted in Taurus, but where that energy can become a little bit difficult is that sometimes they can get into habits out of comfort, where they are almost comforting themselves, and that can be hard to break, like overeating, or eating sugar, or they tend to do these little things to comfort themselves, and they can have a hard time kind of breaking that habit. So their habits and their instincts can be expressed through that moon placement, and also those unconscious patterns and cycles. And also, do you want to look, like their moon sign is also going to show you, do they take your feelings into consideration, or can they be more self-focused, or where their feelings are a little bit more kind of at the forefront, where they're more attentive to like how they're feeling, not necessarily, this can be something that can be difficult with like a moon in Aries, because Aries is very self-focused. So sometimes they're not necessarily thinking about the other person's feelings. They're more focused on how they feel. And that can be something that a moon and Aries person has to navigate and realize how, and balance out. Now let's talk about their Mercury placement, because their Mercury placement is going to show you how they communicate, their communication style, and their mindset. So do they like communication, or do they struggle with communicating, especially communicating how they feel? And that kind of connection between the Mercury placement and the moon placement, that can really show you, like if they have Mercury and moon in a square, these placements, they may have a challenging time expressing to you and communicating how they feel. So you want to look at that Mercury placement to understand their communication style. Now, their Mercury placement, when it comes to, is going to show you their intellectual level, which can be very important for some people, right? Like Mercury rules, our intellect and how we process information. And so you can look at their Mercury placement for that and their mindset. What type of mindset do they have? This can also too kind of show like if they set goals for themselves, are they detail oriented, or do they have a hard time with certain things like this. The Mercury placement also shows how they make decisions and kind of follow through. You want to look at that Mercury placement for their sense of humor. Do they have a sense of humor? Some people don't. That's going to show through their Mercury placement. Are they more rigid or are they tricksters, right? Like a Mercury in Gemini can very much be this energy of fun and playful, great sense of humor. Kind of pranking people all the time. That can definitely be, a Mercury in Gemini. But this is where you want to look to understand how they communicate and if they need communication, right? And this is very important within a relationship. Do they struggle with expressing themselves and communicating how they feel? So you want to look at this Mercury placement for communication, sense of humor, their mindset. That is all important. And then you want to look at their Venus placement, of course, which I'm going to touch on, but we will talk more about Venus later on in this presentation. But their Venus placement is what is going to show you their love language. So how they love and how they want to be loved in return. Venus is going to show you their needs, their wants, and their desires, how they express themselves when it has to do with what they need, and then what they need, and what they want from you, in a sense. Venus is going to show you their sense of style and self-care, self-worth, self-esteem. Do they struggle with self-confidence? Do they struggle with self-worth? That's going to show up with that Venus placement. And also, how they dress, the type of gifts that they like, how they connect with other people, how they spend their money. Are they responsible when it has to do with their finances? This is all going to be expressed through their Venus placement. So their Venus placement is not only important for showing you how they want to be loved, but their Venus placement is also important for showing you how they connect to people in general, especially women, because Venus is feminine energy, represents women, how they connect, how they deal with their finances and material wealth. Is this an area of life where they can struggle in, or are they very responsible when it has to do with their finances? And it can also show you too, the material wealth that they will gain, throughout this lifetime. Venus can also show you their values, what is really important to them on a deep, internal level too. Now let's get to Mars. Oh, and Venus also is sex appeal, especially for women. So Venus and Mars is what we want to look to when we're looking at sex appeal, love making, all of that, but it's kind of putting the two together. Venus is also showing looks too, beauty, right? Venus can show, is one like a Venus and Libra tends to be one that has beautiful voices, but beautiful voices that loves beauty. Yes, kind of beautiful voice, but that's Mercury and Libra. But Venus and Libra can show, one's beauty. They tend to be very pleasing on the eyes and nice looking, I guess. And then the Mars placement. So the Mars placement is going to show you their motivation or lack thereof, their ambitions, their willpower and physical energy. So again, looking at the sun, but also looking at the Mars placement, do they have a lot of physical energy or do they struggle with this? Do they set goals for themselves? Do they follow through? Do they have a lot of willpower? Do they go after what they want? Mars is also going to show you their temperament. So do they struggle with anger and aggression? Are they prone to fights and conflict? Yeah, this is a very important planet that you want to look at because, yes, all relationships have fights, but how far do they take those fights? And do they have a quick temper? Can they go from 0 to 10 in a matter of seconds? That can all be shown through their Mars placement. And also their sexual energy. Their sexual energy and stamina. So, how are they like in the bedroom? But even like their style, right? Like, do they like things a little bit more freaky? And that can also too kind of show up with the Venus, but I do find it's more Mars that shows their sexual energy and stamina, but then also too what they kind of prefer in the bedroom? Are they more laid back, or do they like to be in control? Do they want like a 50 shades of gray? That can really show up with that Mars placement. And Mars rules passion. So, are they very passionate, especially with sexual connections? And last but not least, um, Mars is going to show you how they take action, how they move forward in life with decision making, with just kind of taking action when it has to do with really every element of their life. How do they go after what they want? Which is really important. Like, how do they take action? And do they struggle with taking action? A Mars in the 12th house can show Mars can be in Aries or Leo in the 12th house, which is a great placement for Mars. So it shows that they can have a lot of willpower, they can have a lot of drive, but it takes extra effort in order to kind of get that going. And that could be, a Mars in the 12th house energy. So this can show you, do they need a little extra push when it has to do with going after what they want or taking action or getting things going? If you're asking them to fix things around the house, does it take that extra push? Do you have to ask over and over and over again, or do they just go and do it? Or, you know what I mean? It shows you how they kind of move in that way. And then Saturn and Jupiter placements, which I've kind of thrown in together. Saturn is going to show you about responsibility and maturity and their level of commitment. Saturn's actually very important when we're looking at relationship astrology, because Saturn is going to show you if they struggle with committed partnerships, if they struggle with maturity. And then also you want to look at the house that Saturn is in, because this can show you an area of life where they can experience more challenges or delays. And Saturn energy does get better over time, but it is an energy, but it's important when we're looking at relationships because it can show marriage, partnership, or it could just struggle. I mean, Saturn in the 7th house can show one that gets married very early in life, but it can also show one too that possibly, and you want to look at the surrounding energies with these planets too, but it can also show one that maybe doesn't get married till later on in life. Now, Jupiter is going to show you, are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? What is their look on life? The bigger picture. How do they kind of take on the world, and what is their view? Do they feel like everybody is out to get them? Or are they more positive? That can be shown through that Jupiter placement. Also, their morals, beliefs, values. And then again, with that Saturn energy is going to show you, where in life they experience challenges, delays, and limitations. So now let's get into Venus in all 12 signs. So I want you to keep in mind that while we are going over the energy for Venus and all 12 signs, you want to take into account that this is a very general kind of overview of this energy, because that Venus could be squaring Saturn or could be forming a trine to Jupiter, which can help that energy. So we really want to take into account that there's other energies. We want to check out the other energies in the chart. Venus could be in a really good sign that she does very, very well in, but if she's squaring Saturn, there can be challenges. There can be, a mixed bag of energy there. Or if Venus is in, a sign that she doesn't do good at, but she's forming a trine to Jupiter, which is helping mitigate that energy, that can also help. So we want to take that into account. I have also listed some keywords and phrases for Venus in all 12 signs on each slide, but I'm mainly going to talk about that energy. So let's get into it. Venus and Aries. So Venus and Aries are the initiators. They are the ones to kind of go after what they want. They see something they like, they go after it. Aries is a very self-focused energy, so they can struggle with having that balance, and they do have to watch for, selfishness and becoming too focused on the self. However, they love excitement and they love action. And this is where it can become a little bit challenging for Venus and Aries because they love the newness in relationships, which sometimes can make them jump from relationship to relationship because they love that excitement of falling in love and that excitement of meeting a new person. They love that newness and that kind of honeymoon phase. So it's really important for Venus and Aries people to keep things kind of new within the relationship. They can be very flirtatious as well and very passionate. They're ruled by Mars, so very passionate, very flirtatious. They can be a little bit impulsive, right? They can they can be impulsive spenders. So they may have to watch that with their money and finances, not spending impulsively or being too quick to kind of see something that they like and just buy it without kind of looking in the bank and seeing how much money they have. They can be really impulsive in that way. When it has to do with their style, I find it very fiery and flashy, that lady in the red dress type of style. But Venus and Aries overall is an energy of initiating action and excitement. So if your partner has Venus and Aries, it's very important that you keep things kind of fresh and new within the relationship. They love that honeymoon phase, like I mentioned. They like the newness, they want the excitement, and even when it has to do with dates or presents, they want to go out and have certain experience, like maybe going go-kart riding or, things like that have action. I was just thinking like parachuting, that would be like a Venus and Aries, but maybe even Venus and Sagittarius kind of thing. But Venus and Taurus is all about comfort and stability. It is very important for Venus and Taurus to feel safe and secure. A Taurus is a fixed sign. So and Taurus is all about, feeling comfort, having good food. They would much rather stay in the house and relax with the partner and have a good meal than, let's say, going out and partying or going to a club. They're all about the sensory experiences. So touching, feeling, tasting. This is what they love. This is what makes them feel loved. So it's very important for a Venus and Taurus to be shown that you care for them. By cooking them a good meal or even buying them like a nice outfit. They love that material comfort as well, so they want to know that they have money in the bank. They're usually pretty responsible with their finances and don't spend too erratically because they need to have that security financially, but also with love too. They need the financial security. They need to feel safe financially. They need to feel safe emotionally. And they need to know that their partner can bring that stability to them, really. And they spend their money on practical things. So they're not, spending their money on lavish. They usually don't have like a lavish lifestyle. They're fairly practical. Most of the earth signs are fairly practical when it has to do with their spending and their needs, wants, and desires. Venus and Gemini. So Venus and Gemini, communication is key. Venus and Gemini is also very playful, very flirtatious. And this is where it's a little similar to the Venus and Aries energy. Venus and Aries loves that excitement and newness, but Venus and Gemini can get just very bored very easily. And that can be a little bit challenging when it has to do with committed partnerships, is because it's a very busy energy. And so as long as you're keeping them busy and you're always doing new things and different things, it's kind of like what they need. They love going to like arcades and playing games, stuff like that, or playing cards, like stuff like that they love. But they can get bored very easily. They're also extremely flirtatious individuals. And their style can be quite unique and different. And they can have financial issues. Again, not all Venus and Gemini are going to, but because of the always wanting to do new things, that's kind of what they spend their money on, is, exciting new things. Venus in Cancer. So Venus in Cancer is all about feeling nurtured. Remember, Cancer is the sign of the home. So they want to feel at home with their partner. This is a very receptive, sensitive, and emotional energy. So they need to feel nurtured. And this is because they are nurturing. This is how they love. This is how they show love as well, by taking care of the people that they love in their life, by cooking them a good meal, or, washing their clothes, making sure that those people have everything they need. And that's what they truly need and want in return, is to feel similar to like the Taurus, where they want to feel safe and secure. They do require that as well, but more so being nurtured, where Taurus isn't always, it's not leaning so much on the nurturing side. Cancer very much needs to feel nurtured, and possibly too, this is where things could get challenging for men, where they need like that motherly kind of love in a sense, which it depends on who you are, if you even think that's challenging or not. Some people don't. If you are a woman that has their Venus in Cancer, you're not going to have a problem with a man that has Venus in Cancer, because you guys both have that same love language. This is usually an individual too that requires self-care to stay balanced. They do need to take care of themselves emotionally and intuitively, spiritually, because that can kind of leak out in their energy and play out in their relationship. So it is really important for them to take care of themselves. And they tend to like to spend money on their home and things around the home to make the home look really nice. They're not too, they're not too, they don't spend their money on like a lot of stuff. They seem to be pretty tame when it has to do with they'll spend money more on things that make them feel comfortable, nurtured, like spending. They don't mind spending money on like going somewhere in a hotel with their partner, going somewhere to kind of relax, and with a different scenery, like with their partner, like things like that. Now when it has to do with their style, I always think of the kind of athletic type of style. Like they're the ones that have the comfortable yoga pants on, because they're about comfort, and just, yeah, feeling comfortable and at home. Venus and Leo. So Venus and Leo is a very playful and romantic energy. They love romantic gestures. They are the ones that like the rose petals to the bed, or helicopter rides. Like they love those big, grand gestures. That's a Venus and Leo. And they will do that for you, but they do like that in return. They're extremely generous, and loyalty is very important to Leos. They're very loyal individuals. They are the lion. So they're all about their tribe, right? Like their pack, where things can become different, as they can struggle with ego. They can struggle with their ego, and kind of being not necessarily self-centeredness, because they're so they do care about others, but they do like kind of the attention on them, and sometimes forget to share it with their partner. That can, be a thing. They're very passionate. They usually have great style, because it's Leo, they're Venus. I always think of the man in, Hugo Boss outfit from head to toe, or, the woman in Prada, or, when they have a very great kind of sense of style, usually from head to toe. And they can live more of a lavish lifestyle, which can affect their finances. So they do have to be very careful with, money spending, and things like that. Venus and Virgo. So Venus and Virgo need to be of service. They're all about doing things for you. They are the ones that will clean out your car to show you they love you. So this is where, again, like I say, it's very important to know one's Venus placement, because if you have your Venus in Cancer and you need to feel nurtured, and you're with someone with Venus and Virgo, that might be a little bit difficult, because they're actually doing the things that they think you need done, and that's how they show their love. So cleaning out your car, making your lunch in the morning, organizing your dresser, that's what they're going to do to show they care. That's what they're going to do to show that they love you. That's kind of their love language, is doing these practical things that they think will make your life a little bit easier by organizing your life. They can be a little bit critical on their partners, but this is because, again, they feel like it's making them better. Not necessarily like there's something wrong with them, but it's making them a better person, but it can come off as being, overly self-critical. They are detail oriented. So they pay attention to those details. They are paying attention to what you're doing for them, what you're not doing for them. And that's very important. They're going to pay attention to, all of those little things that, and we all kind of do, but especially Venus and Virgo. And also communication, I feel like, is really important for Venus and Virgo individuals, and intellectual connections. They are ruled by Mercury. So I feel like they do need a partner that can communicate and express themselves and does have a certain level of intelligence in a way. They tend to have great style, great self-care. They're the ones that have their fingernails trimmed. Because they pay attention to those details. There's usually, not a hair out of place on a Venus and Virgo. Their eyebrows are on point. And they tend to be very good with their finances because, again, it's an earth sign. They're very practical with how they spend their money. So they tend to be, pretty good with their money and their finances. Venus in Libra. Venus in Libra is all about balance and harmony. Venus rules Libra. So Venus is at home in Libra. So this is a sign of beauty, harmony, balance, tranquility. Venus and Libra people are usually very pleasing on the eyes. They tend to be really very pretty, very beautiful, very handsome. Venus and Libra individuals. The thing with Venus and Libra individuals is I put here mirror because they tend to give you what you give them. Because to them, everything is about balance. Everything is about justice too, right? So they're not going to go above and beyond if you're not going above and beyond. They are not going to give you something that you're not giving them. And that can be that can be a little challenging depending on who they're with, right? But they basically mirror you. What are you giving them? How are you treating them? They are going to treat you that same way. They can come off as a little bit passive aggressive sometimes, but the most important thing for them is that everything is balanced. They have no problem putting in the work as long as you are. And if you stop, then they will stop. And that's kind of a Venus and Libra. They have a great sense of style. They do like to spend their money on pretty things, flowers, good outfits, things like that. And then they're usually pretty good with self-care, and finances. I mean, the finances can be a little bit of a mixed bag because they do like those beautiful things. So they can spend money on, expensive jewelry, expensive clothes. That can definitely be a thing with Venus and Libra. And then Venus in Scorpio. Now, this is an energy that can get a bad rep. Venus does not do the greatest in Scorpio. Venus is a planet of expression, and Scorpio can be a little bit closed off. So Venus can't express herself that great in Scorpio. So this energy can be a little bit difficult. However, Venus and Scorpios love investigation and research, true crime documentaries, things like that. But they can come off as a little closed off, and they can also wait until they know for sure that they can trust you before they open up. And loyalty is everything to Venus and Scorpio. And that is why they will wait and they will hold off, and they have that self-control to do so until they know that you're worth their everything. They're not going to give you their everything, and they're going to watch you. They're going to put you through tests. They're going to make sure that you are the real deal. Intimacy is very important for Venus and Scorpio because it's Scorpio. It's a very intimate energy, very passionate. And so I feel like having an intimate connection with one person is extremely important. They need to connect to you on a sexual level. This can be a 50 Shades of Grey energy. Absolutely can, Venus and Scorpio, but they do need to have that sexual connection to their partner. That's very important. They're very observant, very methodical. Venus in Scorpio has to watch for obsessive and controlling behavior. They can become, very obsessive where they want to know everything about their partner, what the partner is doing. So that is an energy that you do have to watch with Venus and Scorpio. And again, not everyone with Venus and Scorpio is going to be like this, but it can be a way that this energy is expressed. They tend to be really good with finances as well, Venus and Scorpio. They tend to be fairly responsible with their finances. They usually have like a stash of money put away somewhere that nobody knows about, just in case things kind of fall apart or whatever. They tend to be pretty good with savings and their finances. Venus and Sagittarius. So, Venus and Sagittarius, this is an energy that needs freedom and adventure. Beliefs and values are very important to Venus and Sagittarius. I always say that Venus and Sagittarius is a sign. This is an energy that does very well with long distance relationships because they do need their freedom. So, they do well with not having their person there all the time or being able to talk to their person all the time. So, if you are, if you have a long distance relationship, I mean, if they have their Venus placement in Sagittarius, this is something that they do quite well in. And also their beliefs and values are extremely important. I feel like Venus and Sagittarians people cannot be with other people that don't have similar morals, similar values, and similar belief systems, like religious beliefs. It's very important for them that they're on the same level with their partner when it has to do with, religion and beliefs and all of that stuff. Now, they sometimes tend to have a unique sense of style, where maybe they kind of make their own clothes. That can also be a Venus and Aquarius thing where they make their own clothes, but they have a unique kind of sense of style. They're very outgoing individuals. They are a fire sign, so they can be, very they love action. They love going for helicopter rides. They love traveling. Venus and Sagittarius love traveling, and they love foreign cultures, like eating different foods, getting to know, traveling the world, eating different foods, kind of wearing different clothes too from other cultures is a Venus and Sagittarius energy. They can struggle with their finances because they just enjoy traveling so much and they enjoy spending their money on all of these kind of things, traveling and foreign cultures and eating different foods and exploring and, these adventurous types of things that they can struggle with, like saving money and stuff like that. So that's something that they do have to watch for. Venus and Capricorn. So Venus and Capricorn is a very practical, very responsible energy, very down to earth. This is an energy where they make sure that their money goes where their money has to go. They're paying the bills on time. They are making sure that everything is in order. This is a very practical energy. So they tend to they're not going to buy you gifts if they think you don't need them necessarily. They would rather buy you things that you need. If you need a new vacuum, they're going to buy you a new vacuum. That could be a Venus and Virgo energy as well. They're very responsible with their finances. This is an energy where you don't have to worry about overspending. I mean, unless Venus is like squaring Saturn, and energy, they do quite well with finances. They're very mature, very financially stable. They tend to like committed partnerships because it's ruled by Saturn. So Venus and Capricorn, they're not the type of people that have a lot of partnerships. They're good with just one partner, long-term relationships. They could either have one partner throughout their entire lifetime or a couple of really long-term relationships, but they're not the type to just jump around. They have like a business type style. I feel like Venus and Capricorn, they, business attire, I feel like with Venus and Capricorn. But they're very down to earth people, very determined. Venus and Aquarius. So Venus and Aquarius people, and this is also Moon in Aquarius, where they say they can become very emotionally detached with Moon in Aquarius. But I find too, sometimes even with Venus and Aquarius, they can feel a little emotionally detached, but they're able to separate their emotions and able to do what it is they need to do. They need to have an intellectual connection. They want to share their ideas with you. They want you to know, what they've created, what they've come up with. They also like to do new things with you. Like they like to go on, the science center and like have dates like that. But it's having a partner that can communicate, I feel like, and has a level of intelligence, I feel like is very important for Venus and Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, so they tend to be a little bit rebellious. They can struggle with settling down. They can struggle with, one committed partnership. It really depends on the connection, I find, with Venus and Aquarius. If they find somebody that is in a line that aligns with who they are, together, likes the same things, is okay with them being free and like kind of doing what they want, that they will keep that partner, but they don't like to be held down. They like to kind of, that's where they can struggle with like committed partnerships and kind of needing different things. They tend to also have a unique sense of style as well. So kind of like the Venus and Sagittarius, they might make their own clothes. They might like unique gifts, right? But with Venus and Aquarius, when it has to do with their finances, they tend to be like, I find, fairly mature and responsible with their finances, but they're spending money on their projects and creations and like kind of exploring and yeah, doing those things that they feel connected to in a sense. Technology, they're very, yeah, like they're spending money on new computer programs. I mean, it could be like a Venus, I'm sure not all of them, but hopefully I'm making sense with this. Aquarius is sometimes such a difficult energy to explain, which is such the Aquarian energy. But just think of it, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus and Saturn. So it really is a mixed bag. And I think it really does depend on their emotional connection. So the other planets involved in the chart to show how this Venus and Aquarius is going to be expressed. And I think that's very important when looking at, well, always when looking at it, but especially Venus and Aquarius, you want to know what else is going on here to kind of show, okay, is this person good with committed partnerships or do they need extra freedom? And finally, Venus and Pisces. Now, Venus is exalted in Pisces, and Venus and Pisces, I mean, this is really the best placement for Venus. And this is a very compassionate, romantic, emotional energy, extremely creative. The problem with Venus and Pisces is that because Pisces is such a mutable energy, that Venus and Pisces is picking up on everyone's energy. They struggle with boundaries. They are picking up on everything around them, that it's sometimes hard for them to be discerning. And if everyone on this planet had Venus and Pisces, this would be amazing. But no, I don't want to say unfortunately, but not everybody has Venus and Pisces. And so that's why Venus and Pisces are prone to hurt, to being taken advantage of, because if a Venus and Pisces gets with a Venus and Aries, that's not going to be a very good combination. And Venus and Pisces can struggle with those boundaries. They want everyone to feel, they feel, I find it's because they're so empathetic, they can feel everything around them and they want everyone to just kind of, yeah, it's challenging for them. And where this can just be a great energy for creativity, for, when it has to do with their sense of style, this is another energy where they can have a kind of unique creative sense of style, but it's a very spiritual energy. And I hope I'm explaining this properly. I just want to check my notes here to make sure I'm not, yeah, they are prone to be taken advantage of because they trust everyone. That's one thing I did put, they trust everyone, but also too, they can mirror so they can struggle with having a healthy sense of self, but they can also mirror like what you're giving them. So if they know that, I find if they know that you like certain things, or like to be treated in a certain way, they can mirror that because it's such a mutable energy, but sometimes it's like to their own detriment. So even if they're not enjoying that, or even if that's something that that's not making them happy, they will do it anyways because they know that that makes the other person happy. I hope I'm explaining that properly. But for Venus and Pisces, it's just very important to know that these individuals are extremely sensitive and extremely empathic and extremely receptive, but also so compassionate to a point of, kind of self-neglect too. So it's really important for them to have a healthy sense of self and develop that in this lifetime, to work on their not just spiritual connection, but do a lot of self-care and really figure out who they are in this world and develop healthy boundaries because it's so easy for them to be taken advantage of and get with people that will abuse that, right?